Greetings! I am Herbert Erpaderp, and today I'm going to continue my assembly of this 15 or 20mm scale EWAR building set by Plast Games. This kit is a set of 4 foamed PVC European structures suitable for World War II games like Flames of War, amongst others. Today I am building the second building, EWAR 02, the European building, or Edificio Europeo. I know, I'm great at pronouncing things. I opened the box, had a look at the contents, and built the first model in the previous video. If you want to see that, you can click on the top item in the list on screen now, and you'll be whisked away on an adventure to that video. Or follow the link in the description, or click the end card at the end of this video. I've highlighted the picture of this model on the box, just because the box art doesn't really make it clear exactly which building is EWAR 02. And of course, these are the dimensions of this building, conveniently listed in both metric and imperial. We'll have a look at how many bases we can actually fit inside at the end of the video. Now, let's get building. Much like the previous building, the instructions suggest that you start by gluing in all the windows. That would make it harder to paint nicely, at least the windows anyway. I want them to be at least partially see-through when the model is painted, so I will leave those off until the model is actually painted. In fact, I might even leave them off entirely. At this scale, I don't think omitting the clear plastic parts with the frames would look too bad. We could claim they've all been smashed out anyway. I hear war zones are kind of destructive like that. The instructions also say to install the doors now, but again, it'll be much easier to paint those separately. As before, I slip those parts into the baggie in which the windows came, along with a label so it doesn't get lost. So, with that step more or less skipped, the first thing I'll be doing is gluing the chimney part to the inside of the wall without windows. Be sure to get it lined up nice and straight. It looks like a floor part will be joined onto this, so we do want that to line up nicely. And now, for that floor. As with the previous kit, all the floor parts are joined together on one sheet. Simply snap it along the scored lines to separate the floor parts. As you can see, it might not come apart totally neatly, but you can easily tidy that up with a knife. Or you could use the knife to cut along the score lines before snapping. Next, we glue the middle floor to the front wall. You will find the floor is not quite square. There are 2 sides that will always be too narrow to fit the front wall piece, no matter how hard you try. This can be solved quite easily by rotating the part 90 degrees. Now it fits like a glove. Apply superglue, making sure it's on the correct edge. Hold the floor part to the front wall part at a 90-degree angle until the glue sets up. Using the work surface to help you attain nice straight angles is always a good idea. The same can be done with the smaller upper floor. It's much easier to determine the correct way to glue this on. Next, we can glue on the rest of the walls. This is pretty simple. The wall with the fireplace goes on the left, which is the right if you look at the building from the front. The side wall with the windows goes opposite that, and for some strange reason, the back wall goes on the back. Make sure all the corners are nicely lined up, and there we have our 4 walls. Now we need a roof to stop rain and opportunistic birds getting in and stealing our delicious grains. As with the floors, the roof parts all come on the same textured sheet. Snap the pieces apart and put the parts we don't need aside, but don't lose them. This is the one we want for this step. It has 2 cutouts for the little roomy thingies, dormers or whatever they are called. Apply superglue to all the areas it makes sense to do so, and the roof can then be slipped into place. It kind of clips into the groove in the chimney. When gluing this roof part down, you might find it helpful to use the internal portion of the removable roof part as a spacer to make sure you don't glue the model together with the walls too narrow. I then glue on the walls for the room dormer thingies. Just like the previous model from this box, they go on surprisingly easily. The big openings in the roof part are really good for getting an extra finger in there to help hold the part in place. Pretty easy to get these parts installed fairly neatly. Now they need their own little roofs. The roof parts come joined together like so. These are pairs. They each make a triangular roof piece. One half should be wider than the other. This allows the parts to be glued together with the side of the thinner piece securely being glued to the longer one. This time I'm going to pre-assemble the roof parts rather than overcomplicating it and trying to glue them together in position like I did with the last building. This is pretty easy, though do pay attention to how you line the parts up. There is nothing to guide positioning. Now these little roofs are ready for installation, which is also quite easy. I start by applying glue to the front walls only. This should prevent accidentally getting superglue on the roof parts where it's not wanted. I hold the roof in place, making sure to leave an appropriate overhang, and then when the glue has set, I apply more glue to the inside where the roof parts join. I think it looks pretty good. Definitely not perfect, but not bad. I don't really like the gap in the roof parts, but that can be fixed. Probably with green stuff or something. I'll do that at the same time as the other 3 structures in this kit before I paint them. Much like the other buildings in this box, this one also contains these cornerstone parts. And just like those other buildings, these are very easily glued on. The parts with the angled top go on the sides and the shorter flat parts go on the front and rear. Very easy. Just be careful that you get these parts straight. Otherwise, the building would probably look better without them. Next, the chimney can be completed, starting with the inner wall part. Be sure to get this on nice and straight, or it may impede the removable roof part in annoying ways. Then the top bit can be added. Simply glue it on as straight as possible. It does look a little bit lopsided and odd, but it doesn't look quite as bad as the chimney on the previous model did, at least in my opinion. I would still opt to leave this off if doing so wouldn't leave a big gap in the roof. Now I attach the shutters. This is as simple as gluing one shutter next to each window. Of course, be sure that you do this with the shutter texture facing outwards. Also with these, be mindful of the arched shape of the window. Try not to glue the shutters on either upside down or on the wrong side, though it would make me chuckle if they were on upside down. I think they look alright. Now to quickly do the final couple of steps. Glue the two parts of the removable roof section together. The back of the outer part has a convenient outline to help position the back part, which is nice. Same goes for the independent floor, which we put together next. Easy. We can then put the building together and have a look at it. It all fits together rather nicely indeed. Let's quickly have a look at how many 15mm scale Flames of War infantry bases I can get into this building. The diagram shows one larger base and two smaller ones. I don't know what those are meant to be, but I think they might be 20mm scale bases or something. Anyway, I managed to fit two regular Flames of War infantry bases and two of the smaller ones in there. You can also fit one regular base and one small on the upper floor. The ground floor can obviously hold the same configurations of bases as the middle floor. Someone commented that they would like to see these buildings in comparison to the 15mm scale MDF buildings from Foregrounds. So here we go. The first obvious thing you can see, other than the foreground stuff being pre-painted, is that they're fairly different in size. The Foregrounds buildings are a lot smaller. I believe this is because the foreground models are intended specifically for 15mm scale, while the EWAR models are suitable for both 15 and 20mm scale. Even though I don't currently play any 20mm scale games, I think that flexibility is good. It does make them look a bit odd together though, so I don't really think it would look as good to mix and match these in the same little town area on a gaming table. Both kinds of model are good though, and they both have their pros and cons. The textures on the EWAR models are much better than the Foregrounds offerings. I didn't show it, but the foreground models are more flexible in that both the roof and second floor can be removed separately. Both models are fairly obviously intended for gaming use and aren't display pieces, though I think if you wanted to go for something more realistic looking, the EWAR kits lean a little bit more in that direction, at least in my opinion. Either way, I like both. I would just use them on opposite ends of the gaming table, I think. I do really quite like this model. Obviously it's not a super detailed display piece, but as I mentioned in the previous video, they are definitely gaming terrain pieces intended to be played with, and for that purpose these models work very well. The textures are pretty nice. I quite like the walls on this model. The plasterwork, or whatever it is, has chunks of it missing with sections of brick texture showing through. It's a nice touch, and it will certainly help the model look really nice when I do eventually get around to painting it. Before I do that, I'm probably going to make some minor modifications, mostly to improve the joins in the roof sections, and to try improve the way the chimneys look. I'll probably use green stuff for that. Even without that though, I'm satisfied with this structure. My little town is starting to take shape. I mean, it's all white so far, but eventually there will be more colour. Stick around for the next installment of my adventures in building the EWAR building set, in which I will build a building. If you have any comments, questions or suggestions, it would be great to see them in the comments section below. If you like this video, click the thumbs up button, thumbs down if you didn't, subscribe if you haven't already, and of course share with anyone you think may find this useful or interesting. And if you really like what I do, please consider helping to support the channel via Patreon at patreon.com/Herberterp. In the description you will find a link you can follow to find that, or you could click the Patreon logo on screen now. Any support would be greatly appreciated. I shall return soon, so until then, happy modelling and thanks for watching. Farewell.